So last video, I explained how tarot reading is actually a form of game theory. And today I thought I would show you how to use your tarot deck like a game theorist would. For those of you that don't know, game theory is a form of prediction modeling, typically using algebra, human factors. It's a way of developing probabilistic forecasts on very strategic and complex systems. And because of that complexity, it can be a very difficult subject to study and very math heavy. Today, I'm not going to be going into the math. I'm just going to keep it light and fun. So no math required to learn how to use tarot deck like a game theorist. But what makes tarot so elegant in its simplicity that I think game theory is lacking is tarot condenses a lot of these very complicated concepts into artwork and archetypes. And the beauty of this design is that they can be used in a myriad of ways. The meaning and the symbolism and the interpretation of a card can have multiple different nodes, different facets. And it basically allows you to run game simulations in the palm of your hand without needing Python script, you know? So anyway, today I thought I would give you some real life examples and pull some cards and see what comes up. So the first game theory tarot reading example I'm going to do for you is the 2020 oil crisis. So the pandemic had just started and the world was in lockdown. We shut everything down, we locked everything up, and because of that, the demand for oil plummeted. Now there were two main players producing oil at that time, and that was Saudi Arabia and Russia. And in game theory, what you would do is, this is like a very classic prisoner's dilemma. Game theory would say, oh, well, these both players, they want to make the most money, even though we've just had a lockdown. They want to preserve their assets. And in game theory, the most rational decision would be to cooperate. Ideally, Russia would sit down with Saudi Arabia and they'd say, hey, let's both cooperate, cut back down on production so that we can stabilize gas prices, you know, and everything will work out. It's a win-win for the both of us. If you guys recall, that is not what happened at all. Even though game theory would say, hey, it's in your economic interest to cooperate together, come up with a creative solution to figure out how to navigate this unprecedented global pandemic so that you don't tank your resources and tank the market. But that's not what happened, because people, countries, players are not always rational. What ended up happening was Russia chose to defect. They chose to flood the market with oil, hoping to bankrupt their competitors. And it was kind of like a game of chicken, actually. And Saudi Arabia retaliated and they said, well, we're going to flood the market too. You know, you can't be the only player in town. And so we had both Russia and Saudi Arabia flooding the market, and it got so bad that they actually ran out of storage space. And the price of oil plummeted to like negative $30-something a barrel. I mean, it was unprecedented. But what was the outcome? Well, both parties lost. Both parties took like an economic hit. And this is interesting because as a game theorist, this would never be predicted by our modeling, because this is a situation where you know that there would be a high chance of retaliation and you would therefore lose. It would actually be in your best interest to cooperate. But you know what? That's humanity, right? So that's the game theory analysis side. I'm going to pull some tarot cards to see if tarot can offer a deeper explanation or a more nuanced explanation of what happened. So the first card I'm going to pull is to represent Saudi Arabia. The second card is going to be Russia. And the third card is going to be what would be the best advice in this scenario. Like if I could sit down at a table between Russia and Saudi Arabia, what would I recommend to them? What would be the economic move, which would obviously be cooperate, right? And then the fourth card is going to be what actually happens. So I'm not going to cut the video, no fancy editing. I'm going to shuffle whatever cards that I got first are what I'm going to use in this reading. So we'll see how it works. Okay. shuffle my cards nice and well here. Okay, so the first card is Saudi Arabia. I got 9 of Pentacles. Perfect card for them. This is the card of wealth. It's the card of luxury and abundance. And here we see a woman, she's in her garden. She's got all these gold coins at her feet. This is an archetype about supreme wealth and comfort. And I think this is a wonderful illustration of Saudi Arabia. Because they are such a wealthy country, it was like they had the capital to play that game of chicken with Russia. It was like they had the money to say, no, you are not the biggest player in town. I can play ball too, and I can hurt you too. So they are wealthy. That's in this tarot reading what I got, the Knight of Pentacles, wealthy. All right, the next card is going to be for Russia. And I got the Moon. Pretty fascinating, actually. So the Moon, this is an archetype about what is hidden, what's obscure. It's, if you were in a deal with someone who's represented by this archetype, I would say don't trust them. They're not someone who's going to play fair. They're not going to play above board. The fact that Russia decided to defect and not cooperate and flood the market in order to try to bankrupt their competitors during a global pandemic crisis, pretty well fitting for this card, the Moon. The Moon is like hidden motives, illusion, shadow-driven reactions, that kind of thing. All right, the third card is what should they have done? What would have been the best outcome? And I got the Well. Now, this particular tarot deck that I'm using is called Ethereal Visions, and he has slightly different cards than your normal 78. And so the Well is a card unique to this tarot deck, and it basically is talking about creative problem solving, creative visions. This is a special card in this tarot deck. So this is about collaboration, problem solving, being creative when you need to, pulling on your creative resources. I agree. If both countries wanted to win and not lose money in this game, they should have cooperated. Perfect card. All right, last card. What ended up happening? I got the 6 of Pentacles. This is so funny. Tarot cracks me up. Okay, so in the imagery, we see two poor people on their knees begging. And to me, this really represents what the outcome was. They were literally begging people to take oil off their hands. They were literally saying, I will pay you to take this oil because I'm running out of space. We flooded the market way too heavily. This is really about power distributions, dynamic control, who gets what. And we can see both parties here ended up impoverished. So it's kind of interesting. Game theory and tarot reading are both modeling tools. They're both modeling tools. And I love how the cards that I picked just perfectly align with what happened in real life. I think that that's really fun. But what I like best about tarot reading is it adds the psychological factors, the archetypal factors, the archetypal drives in a situation. It brings the irrational into the equation, whereas game theory focuses more on the rational. I think that game theory and tarot reading can provide very interesting models to us to explore and navigate. Ultimately, when I think about like my work with my clients, for example, and how game theory is beneficial and tarot reading is beneficial, regardless of what the outcome of the prediction modeling is, what's really helpful is just to sit down and think about the problem, just to think about whatever it is that you're stumped on. Anyway, I could talk about the subject in more detail. If you want me to do more examples of game theory reading, analysis without the math, or if you would like me to include the math, let me know. And till next time.